Hello, and welcome once again to the David Messiah YouTube channel, where our watchwords are to teach and to build back up the kingdom of Zion. And the title of this talk is The Day of Vengeance is the Day of Atonement. The Day of Vengeance is the coming Day of Atonement. And it is a continuation of my last two uploads, where in the first of those uploads I was given to give that the Day of Trumpets, which was September 23rd, was a sort of a day that heralded the coming Day of Vengeance. But at that time, I was not given the information as to what that day of vengeance would be. So I'm now to let you know that that day of vengeance, spoken at that point, that day of vengeance is the coming Day of Atonement, which on the Most High's calendar is just this coming Monday, October the 3rd. And let me go quickly to that and to show that to you. The Day of Atonement is not the day on which the so-called Jews observe it, because the so-called Jews observe the Day of Atonement not in accordance with the instructions that were laid down by Enoch, but rather based on man-made assumptions having to do with the sighting of the crescent moon as the way of determining the new months. And what I've been clearly guided is that the new months, as I indicated in that video upload two uploads ago, the new months are fixed by the four pillars of the solar year, which are the 2 days of equinox, spring equinox, which is always around March 21st, 22nd, or 23rd. The fall equinox, which is always around September 21st, 22nd, or 23rd. And the two solstices, the summer solstice, which is always around June, I believe, 20, well, here it is, around June 23rd, 22nd, 21st, that range. And the winter solstice, which is always around December 21st, 22nd, 23rd. And that and this jumping around within that sort of 2-day span for each of these four pillars is because of the way in which the Gregorian calendar has been now established. Okay, with the leap years every 4 years and etc. But with these four pillars, the new year always starts on the day after the spring equinox. So here in this year, 2023, the day of spring equinox, as we see here in this table, the day of spring equinox was March 23rd, the 31st day of the 12th month of the year, 6008. And so the day following Friday, March 24th, marked the new year on the Most High's calendar. So for New Year 6009, first month, corresponded to Friday, March 24th. And then you count, always for the spring, you now count 92 days. So 30 days for the first month of spring, 31 days for the second month of spring, and 31 days for the third month of spring, 92 days from the new year brings you to the summer solstice, which this past year was Friday, June 23rd, as we see here, last row of this table. In Enoch's day, it was always 91 days. Well, the Most High let me to know, and this is indeed in accordance with Enoch's prophecy. Enoch described a calendar where it was 91 days, 91 days, 91 days, 4 times for each season. So in Enoch's day, you would have counted 91 days from the New Year's Day, and that would have brought you to the summer solstice. Mosai let me to know that after the flood, that changed to a year of 365 days instead of 364 days of Enoch's day, with the spring quarter being changed permanently, well, until he changes it again, which he might, to 92 days instead of the 91 days of Enoch's day. And then there was a further change after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, to where there was a 366 day added to the solar calendar, but only once every 4 years. And that's how you get, on average, 365 and a quarter days for the solar year. And that Enoch had prophesied, and somewhat cryptically, because when you read it in the Slavonic Enoch, also called the Book of the Secrets of Enoch, I think it's there in chapter 16, around verse 4, it is hard to make head or tail of what really that was trying to say. And this is where you have to go to spirit to get guidance. And this is the guidance that I was given, was a 366 day was added, but once every 4 years. Okay? And that came after the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. And that too was sort of prophesied that the days would change, and I've dealt with that in my book, Yahweh's Enochian Calendar and the Second Coming. So if you want further detail on that, you could go there. I'm not going to spend more time trying to bring out all the scriptural references. So Friday, June 23rd marked the summer solstice. So the day following, Saturday, June 24th, marked the beginning of the season of summer. Summer, you count 91 days exactly as it was in Enoch's day, divided into 3 months. First month of summer, 4th month of the year, 30 days. Second month of summer, 5th month of the year, 30 days. And then 3rd month of summer, 6th month of the year, 31 days. So you count 91 days from the beginning of summer, and that takes you to this other pillar of Enoch's calendar, which is the fall equinox, which this year was Friday, September 22nd. So the day following that was Saturday, September 23rd, marked the 7th month, the first day of the 7th month of the year, and the first day of the season of fall, or autumn. And so that was, by definition, a new month day of the 7th month, as given to us by Noah, and we had to keep a feast on that day. And it was also the day of blowing of trumpets, and it was that day that I was given to say was the heralding, or marked the heralding of the day of vengeance, which is now around the corner. But he had not given me the detail as to when that would be, only that the blowing of trumpets would mark the sort of heralding of that day of vengeance. Okay, so on the fall calendar, this too is 91 days, divided into 3 months, because year 6009 is not a 4 divisible year. So 30 days for the first month of fall, 30 days for the second month of fall, and 31 days for the third month of fall, which brings us to Friday, December 22nd, which is the winter solstice. So the day following that would be the beginning of winter, which this year would be Saturday, December 23rd, and count 91 days, 30 days for the first month of winter, 30 days for the second month of winter, and 31 days for the third month of winter brings us to the spring equinox, which in 2024 will be Friday, March 22nd. So New Year's Day for the new year 6010, and next year 2024 on the Gregorian calendar would be Saturday, March 23rd. So this is how the Most High's calendar is set up. It does not require a sort of looking around to see whether you sight the crescent moon to determine when a new month would start. And all of the set feasts, the Moadim, the 3 feasts of spring, the 3 feasts of fall, and then there's Pentecost there in the middle, sort of, so to say. 7 set feasts as was given to us by Moses. Okay, they are all keyed to the first day of the month in which those feasts occur. So the feast of Passover is the 14th day of the first month. You can't know what the 14th day of the first month is unless you know what is the first day. Okay, so the calendar here given to us, essentially going back to Enoch, lets us to know how to figure that out. Okay, and again it's tied to the 4 pillars, the 2 solstices, the 2 equinoxes. Okay? Alright, so in the case now of what we are about, what we are now looking forward to, the 10th day of the 7th month, which is the Day of Atonement, is this year Monday, October the 2nd. Am I right? Year 6009, year 2023, yes. Fall season, yes. Wait a minute, let me check something here before I go further. Hope I'm not looking at the wrong file. Yes, Monday, October the 2nd. Okay, which is this coming Monday, is the Day of Atonement, which means it starts on the evening of that day, Sunday, October the 1st, and carries on through the end of the day, Monday, October 2nd. All right, that's the Day of Atonement. Now, this varies, as I've said, from how the so-called Jews figure the feast days, because they have to keep looking for the crescent moon to determine these various new months. Okay, but that would straight away go against what we were clearly given by Noah, what we were clearly given by Enoch, because they all very clearly spoke about going 91 days. In the case well, let me bring it to you, as long as I have the file open here. No, I need to go to the other file. But let me take the trouble to do so. Okay, so this was Yahweh's Enochian calendar, where I was quoting from the book of Jubilees, which is where, as we see here at Jubilees chapter 6, verse 24, and Noah ordained them for himself as feasts for the generations forever. And these are the 4 feasts, bringing in the 4 seasons of the year. So the new month of the 1st month, the new month of the 4th month, bringing in summer, the new month of the 7th month, bringing in fall, the new month of the 10th month, bringing in winter. And verse 29, and they placed them on the heavenly tablets, these ordinances. Each had 13 weeks. 13 by 7 days per week is 91 days. From one to another past the memorial, from the first to the second, from the second to the third, and from the third to the fourth. Again, the only change made was after, 2 changes made after the flood. The first season became 92 days, and after Sodom and Gomorrah, the 4th season, the 3rd season, which is 4, also became 92 days, but only once every 4th year, and in particular on 4 divisible years. So year 6009 is not 4 divisible, so the fall season this year is 91 days. Last year, 6008, is the 4 divisible year, because 4 goes evenly into 6008. And so last year we had a 92-day fall season. But otherwise, it's a very regular calendar and does not at all depend upon the sighting of the crescent moon. If you are citing the crescent moon as the basis for determining the new months, then there's no way you're going to get the 13 weeks. Because a lunar month alternates between 29 days and 30 days, so 29 and a half days on average. So a lunar season, 3 months, okay, would give you, on average, not 91 days, but rather 89 and a half days. And that's why every so often you need to have an Adar 2 at 13th month of the year, because you come to the end of 8th month of Adar, which is the 12th month, and ordinarily you would move to another year, but if you're still in the depth of winter, it would be too soon. So what the so-called Jews do is they add an Adar 2 and wait until the end of Adar 2 before now starting a new year. So you go completely off kilter, so to say, and that is not what was described either, as we see here, by Noah in Jubilees, or what we see given by Enoch. And I'll go to Enoch just for a little bit. I have to keep emphasizing these things, and sorry for repeating this little lesson, because our people are stiff-necked to a fault, and if they have the idea that the Jews are right, yeah, so this is book of Enoch, chapter 82. We'll go to verse 16 of chapter 82 of Enoch. Here it is describing in Enoch's day the season of spring, where it says, all the days of his dominion, whilst he bears rule, the spirit of spring, are 91 days. Okay, so Enoch is clear as to that, and there's also scripture to the effect. Let me see if I can bring it up. Jubilees, I believe. Around 30 something. Yes. Jubilees chapter 6 verse 33. But if they do neglect and do not observe them according to his commandment, then they will disturb all their seasons, and the years will be dislodged from this order, and they will disturb the seasons, and the years will be... there's more to what I wanted to do there. Let me see. There we are. Let me start at verse 36. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb the order and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, and an unclean day a feast day, and they will confound all the days, the Kodesh with the unclean, and the unclean day with the Kodesh, for they will go wrong as to the months and Shabbats and feasts and jubilees. So this is the idea. I could have made it clearer, but anyway. This is the idea that trying to depart from the solar calendar and its 4 pillars and move to a system where you go according to the sighting of the crescent moon, you're going to, in the end, get the Kodesh mixed up with the unclean. And this indeed is what the so-called Jews have been doing. And you know, I'm very clear as to this. I'm not in any way sort of making this up. It's what I have been guided. I have to bring it to you in a sort of a rational way to appeal to the sort of rational aspect of your mind, but guidance of the Holy Spirit is guidance of the Holy Spirit. And if we have scripture that lets us know clearly, Jeremiah 16, verse 19 and 20, which many of us quote when it is convenient to do so, but somehow the weight of tradition and the weight of custom being what it is, we take it for granted that when the Jews say that this is the day of atonement, that this is the day of trumpets, that we take it for granted that they know what they are doing. They do not. And this is a point made there by Jeremiah, chapter 16, verses 19 and 20. Let me read it to you again, although all of you will be familiar with it by now, I am sure. Verse 19, O Lord Yahweh, my strength and my fortress and my refuge in the day of affliction. The Gentiles, and these so-called Jews are in fact Gentiles from the line of Japhet at best. At worst, they are descendants of fallen angels, which is what Gentile literally means, those who are descended from fallen angels. That's what Gentile means. Shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth, and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit. Shall a man make gods unto himself, and they are no gods? So they've got it wrong. Now they also mixed in with Esau. You can read the book of Jasher, you know that the grandson of Esau, Zepho, was made king over the Kittim, which was one of the Gentile peoples descending from Japhet, today also called Romim. And they went and they subdued all the other Gentile isles, and that's how come Esau is also now mixed in with the isles of the Gentiles. So that the so-called Jews who are treading the land of Jerusalem underfoot until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled have a sort of a twin identity, one as Esau and two as Gentiles. And it's not really a contradiction because of how, there's been so much mixing going on. Okay, so was it September 23rd was the Day of Trumpets? And our coming Monday, October 2nd, is the Day of Atonement. And the so-called Jews have already gone and they've celebrated something they call the Day of Atonement. I think they celebrated trumpets on September 16. So add 10 days to that. That means on September 26th was when they would have been celebrating or observing the Day of Atonement. But they are wrong. Okay? And what is my authority for saying so? I am that David Messiah. Okay? He gave me, and he had the Holy Spirit to guide me in writing a book, Yahweh's Enochian calendar and the second coming. So it's not, I'm not sort of just making it up on the fly. He had me to sit down over about 3 months or so to write that book, and he gave me all of that information. Now, if I had to write the book over again, yes, I could certainly improve it and make the arguments a little bit more clear and perhaps a little bit more persuasive. But okay, so October 2nd is the coming Day of Atonement. And what he's now letting me to know, which he didn't let me to know at the beginning, was that the Day of Vengeance indeed will be October the 2nd, the Day of Atonement. And that is interesting for all kinds of reasons, but let me go to two Psalms which I still have not been able to read because this Blue Letter app, seems to get, to seize up after a certain set number of uses, so to say. So I'd given you and commended to you Psalm 38 and Psalm 131 to read because he had given those psalms to me at the time to read as part of that upload. But let me go first to 131 because that's only a 3-verse psalm. So let me read it, and I want to do so for a reason that will become clear. So just bear with me for a little bit. Lord, Yahweh, my heart is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. Neither do I exercise myself in great matters or in things too high for me. Surely I have behaved and quieted myself as a child that is weaned of his mother. My soul is even as a weaned child. Let Israel, Yesharalo, hope in the Lord Yahweh from henceforth and forever. Because the day of vengeance is also, in a sense, a day of redemption. Vengeance for those that made the children of Israel to lie as the ground that they might walk over, and redemption, a raising back up of the children of Israel, of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Okay. But also, here there is a sort of an admonition. My heart is not haughty, nor mine eyes lofty. And it is a kind of a rebuke, which I take to heart, because in giving the word that he gave me to give, what was that book that W.B. Du Bois wrote, The Souls of Black Folk? I have a sort of a rational PhD mind, and at the same time, I have the soul and the spirit of a Negro, and my Negro spirit mind is sometimes at war with my rational PhD mind. So when he gave me the information as to, okay, the Day of Trumpets is a sort of a harbinger day, a heralding day for the Day of Vengeance, of course I wanted to know, well, all right, when is the Day of Vengeance? And he didn't give me at the time. So he let me to kind of, bring my PhD rational mind to kind of, well, when is it, But in the process of doing that, I went where I should not go as a servant of the Most High. Because when he gives me a message to give, I am to give you that message without a discount to it and without a markup to it. And in this case, I gave a discount because it sort of came out of my mouth. It could be 20 this year, 2024. It might even go into 2025. I kind of, allowing for this possibility, because when you are given information involving a date, you are out on a limb. He puts you out on that limb. Okay. And now is a question, all right, are you going to sort of let yourself sit on that limb? Okay, and if he wants to cut you off on that limb, well, that's up to him, but it's an uncomfortable position to be in. So there it was, I'm sort of discounting, because the sort of, if he says the Day of Trumpets is September 23rd, and that is a day that heralds the Day of Vengeance, logically, it can't be as far away as 2025. Logically, Day of Vengeance has to come certainly before the next blowing of trumpets, at the very least. Okay. But for various other reasons, I had 2025 slip out of my mouth. Why? Because in the book, The Coming of David Messiah, where I looked at some of the timetabling, yes, some of these end time events could go as late as 2025. But there are many other events on the timetable besides that day of vengeance. And that day of vengeance is what really is defined in the book of Revelation, chapter 18. And this is where he sort of, lets me to draw at least a clear conclusion. And I made the point in the second of the uploads pertaining to the day of vengeance, that what is happening, that great millstone, thus with violence will this city, this great city, be brought down. But you will have those in the ships, sort of off the coast, so to say, at sea, that would be looking on and mourning this great city, and etc., from which you could draw the conclusion that it probably will not be a nuclear kind of event. Because if it's a nuclear kind of event, you're not going to have that picture. So where was I going? Yes. So Revelation 18 and the day of vengeance there described is not necessarily referring to all the items on the end times agenda. So there may still be things that don't happen until 2025. And so, but I was trying to kind of, in my mind, I'm justifying what earlier had been given, and that's in the book. And I shouldn't do that. That's discounting now what he'd given me to give. So there's a mild rebuke. What does it say? Yes, in 18 and 18, and cried when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what city is like unto this? For in 1 hour, verse 17, so great riches is come to naught. And so this was the idea that he led me to now to bring as a speculation. Normally he doesn't allow me to speculate. But he allowed me in the second upload in this to give the speculation that it might be one of these wonder weapons the Russians have developed, the Sarmat, for example, which can target any target whatsoever anywhere on the planet, with 15 sort of independently targeted sort of multiple warheads or what have you. And it need not carry nuclear warheads. Might be a EMP, was an electromagnetic pulse kind of weapon that would shut down all sort of communications equipment. It could also be kind of heavy, sort of, kinetic, but conventional bombs, in effect, that could take out, huge buildings and penetrate basements and all of that. Okay, so he gave me to do that speculation. Why? Because what was coming up for this day of vengeance, and it's there, where was it, in, was it verse 4? No, that was, well, it's throughout. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, and so on and so forth. So that is what allowed the speculation that non-nuclear, conventional weapons, but a very powerful sort, could be what is there being used, which would tally with Obadiah, verse 1, chapter 18. But I won't go there. Well, let me go there briefly. I'm kind of shy about using up resources of Blue Letter Bible now. Verse 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame. Joseph here being Russia, as I've already indicated many a time, and the house of Esau for stubble. And they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau. For the Lord Yahweh had spoken it. So again, this is inconsistent with the doctrine of mutual assured destruction. Inconsistent with a nuclear exchange, because here all the destruction is on the side of Esau, not on the side of Israel or Joseph. You understand? Okay. But the rebuke was there in that psalm, and I accept the rebuke because I did kind of discount, trying to use my rational mind a little bit too much. I did discount a little bit that which he'd given me to give. So we're looking, and he's now made it plain that we're looking at a very imminent fulfillment of this day of vengeance, because he's now given it to me. It is this coming Monday, which leaves me certainly out on a limb, but I have to be obedient. And with that, now let me now go to Psalm 38. And again, bear with me, because there's a reason why I am going back to these psalms that I didn't get to reading on previous go-rounds of this topic. Verse 1, O Lord Yahweh, rebuke me not in thy wrath, neither chasten me in thy hot displeasure. So the rebuke is there. For thine arrows stick fast in me, and thy hand presseth me sore. There is no soundness in my flesh because of thine anger, neither is there any rest in my bones because of my sin. And I'd said that it was specific to me, this psalm, but it also had some general applicability to the house of Israel. For mine iniquities are gone over mine head, as an heavy burden they are too heavy for me. My wounds stink and are corrupt because of my foolishness. I am troubled, I am bowed down greatly, I go mourning all the day long. For my loins are filled with a loathsome disease, and there is no soundness in my flesh. Well, last night he brought it home again to me very, very plainly. So it is a sort of a spiritual kind of a matrix. But last night I was, before going home to dinner, a friend of mine who is a shopkeeper here in the village gave me a gift of some fish, already seasoned and everything. And we've had some very, very hot days, and I'll come to that because that also is significant. We've had some very, very hot days, but as I walked out of the parlor, the sky turned black, and a strong rain came down. I guess if it were on the sea, it would be called a squall. And later on, he let me to know why that was, because he was telling me that fish I should not be eating. But I made a nice little supper with it. She sort of seasoned it up very nicely. So when I cooked it, I made a fish broth with it. It tasted very good. It's a fish broth with some potatoes and some pasta, some pumpkin, and onions and etc. Some green seasoning, as we call it here in Trinidad. But the fish is a fish that's called kingfish. There are two kinds of fish that we like in Trinidad. One is kingfish, one is carite. Now, they're not like shark. And I do remember one fisherman sort of persuading me that they're okay because even though they don't have much scales, they do have little tiny scales. So out of my greed, because it tastes good, out of my greed, in effect, I took that as valid, that the law was not being sort of broken by eating of that fish. Because they had, well, tiny scales. No, they don't have clear scales as the law requires fish to have before we, the children under covenant law, can eat them. So it tasted good, all right, but he had me getting up all night. I could feel my prostate swell up like, I don't know if you know the fruit, the breadfruit fruit, which is a really big fruit, a heavy fruit. Okay, if you're not familiar with the breadfruit, think of a grapefruit. Okay, I could almost feel my prostate swell up like one of those things. And so, when that is the case, your bladder can't fully empty. So every 15 minutes you have to be going. Okay. So, and later on, he made it very clear as to, okay, this is the problem. He was sending me a message with that squall. Even though we've had some very hot, very dry days, and that squall only lasted for about 15 minutes. And the sun came back out hot as ever. Okay. So, out of foolishness, out of stupidity, not only in this kind of iniquity in which we're still caught up, however innocently, because we think we're obeying the law, but we're not. We need to be clear. And so the Day of Atonement is right around the corner. And it is on the Day of Atonement that we can get absolution as individuals and as a nation for all our sins. Which brings up a big issue, because if you read the laws given to us through Moses, you needed to have the temple, you needed to have the Aaronic priest, and you needed to bring the blood of sacrifice for that kind of absolution indeed to take place. And of course, on the Day of Atonement, you had to afflict your soul, which means essentially that you had to fast all day. Okay, so when Yeshua came, he came to prophesy, among others, the destruction of the temple, that there would be not a stone one left upon another, to prophesy the scattering out of the people of the priesthood from that place. If there's no temple, if there's no priesthood, how are you going to fulfill that requirement of that law? And that is part of what Yeshua came to be and to become. He became the fulfillment in that regard. He became the temple. He became the priest, and he became the lamb. And that includes now fulfilling the requirements of the Day of Atonement. And so it is interesting that on the Day of Trumpets, first day of the 7th month, here it was a long time ago, I was guided to observe the feast of Last Supper remembrance as he had ordered through Paul. So in addition to the Day of Trumpets being the Day of Trumpets, here it was, obeying the guidance I had been given. I was, in effect, giving honor to Yeshua, and indeed taking on board yet again that his body is given for us, his blood is given for us. And then this indeed is what is required as sacrifice now for the Day of Atonement. You see that link there? So Yeshua is critical in that regard. Now, the Day of Atonement, I was given to inquire as to what the original Paleo-Hebrew definition of that word was and what really it meant. Because again, Jeremiah chapter 16 verses 19 to 20. The Gentiles shall come unto thee from the ends of the earth and shall say, surely our fathers have inherited lies, vanity, and things wherein there is no profit, because they call it what? Yom Kippur. What I have been guided is that the Paleo-Hebrew word for that observation is Akwadala. Akwadala. Or Akwadala. 4 Hebrew letters. First letter is letter Ket. Second letter is letter Wa, depicted by a tether, a line, a tent peg, and so forth. Third letter is letter Dal, depicted by a veil or a door. And the fourth letter is letter Aleph, depicted by the head of an ox, with the meaning of a strong one, of an Eloah, a god. So what Akwadala is saying literally is the Wada is saying lifting of the veil. And Wada La, lifting of the veil unto God. So that there is a separation between this world and the world of God, so to say, which is what is there in the temple, the Holy of Holies. There was a veil. And the Ak consonant in front carries the idea of over there, so to say, so because that is depicted by the outside of a tent. Okay, so or the taking away. So it is the lifting of that veil that takes us to that other world, which is the world of the Most High, the world of God. So that's what that veil is. So when we lift that veil, it is to go to God with repentance in our heart and thereby to make atonement in accordance with the law, which required the temple, the priest, the blood, the lamb of sacrifice. And that one now is Yeshua. Okay? So there is a lifting, a revealing. And the idea of a lifting and of a revealing is the idea of revelation. Is the idea of apocalypse, which is another word for revelation. The book of Revelation is also called the book of Apocalypse. And the day of vengeance is essentially there, what is given in chapter 18. And a great millstone. Thus with violence is that great city, in 1 hour is that great city thrown down. So you see the connection between the idea of the day of vengeance, because it's right there in the book of Apocalypse, chapter 18 in particular. And if you go up to the top of chapter 18, verse 2, it is Babylon is fallen, is fallen. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins and receive not of her plagues. And then later on you see this great destruction coming in 1 hour, in 1 day. because she sitteth the queen and she thinks nothing can happen to her, only to find now that she could be brought down, that her power has been eclipsed. And that was why the speculation, he allowed me to go forward with that speculation, because her power has been eclipsed precisely by Russia. Russia, who is also fulfilling Obadiah chapter 18, verse 18. Jacob, fire, Joseph, a flame, and Esau for stubble. So the whole house of Jacob is a fire now. That's the whole, what's going on in Africa. Okay, that's a revolution going on. As he led me to know, and he had me to say straight up that is what that was. That the coup there in Niger was the beginning of the fulfillment of Daniel chapter 7, verse 18 to 18, come into it again. That's interesting. Now I didn't remark it before. But 18 is numerological 9. The numerolocal 9 is that energy, that vibration of things that were hidden coming to light. That is the vibration of witness. That is the vibration of, in particular, also false witness. Meaning to say that those who have things to hide will find that, okay, so hiding is a kind of a false witness, isn't it? When you're hiding things that really should be out in the open, that's a kind of a lying, it's a false witness. Well, if you're lying in that way, the lies will come to light. The year 6009 also carries that number 9 vibration. It's the 9th year of the 7th millennium. So we find all kinds of things now coming to light that people would ordinarily, well, they have been trying to hide. Look at what's happening in Nigeria. That president that basically stole an election, rigged an election, has been a drug dealer kind of situation, and with all the money he's made, he's bribing everybody, including the appeal court and probably also the Supreme Court. And bribed also, it would seem, the Chicago State University people. But all of that is now coming to light. What has been hid will come to light. And there are other examples around. I can't think offhand what some of them are. But in the instant matter, as to this day of vengeance, where you have an entity, a transnational entity, supranational entity, that is really the sort of the fount of the deep state, working through the neocons and the neolibs and etc., so that whichever party it is, some people are calling it the Uniparty, some people are calling it the War Party, the policies remain unchanged. Why? Because the program at work is being directed from that place there in the city of London. They are the head of this hydra-headed monster. And that's what's there in Revelation chapter 17. They shall hate the whore that rideth the beast. And that whore, I would suggest and have suggested many a time, is H-O-R, stands for the House of the Red Shield. You understand? Put it in German and you have who I'm talking about. So all these things are now coming to light. To where what I was speculating about in the last upload was that the people of America are not really down with the program being pursued by the neocons and the neolibs. I think I was listening to some program just last night where it was saying that 75% of the people disagree or disapprove of their politicians, the congressmen and senators there in the houses of Congress. Yet there's a 90% retention rate from election to election. To where now you have these old people that are running the country. Biden being an excellent example, but you have people like Mitch McConnell and so forth, also suffering from progressive senile dementia on the job. And in the case of Biden, it is obvious, it is clear. But in a sense, if the country is being run by other forces, it's not necessary for the president to be compos mentis. He could be a complete blithering idiot out of his mind. It doesn't matter because he's not controlling anything anyhow. And that became obvious, I think, on one occasion when there was a press conference and he was drifting off into complete incoherence. Some people had been asking him, the journalists asking questions, and so, his handlers basically cut him off in mid-sentence, which was making any sense anyway. So what kind of president do you have? So all these things are now coming out into the open. Number 9, energy is at play. And in a video upload, I think about 5 video uploads or 6 video uploads prior, NATO's nakedness is exposed. That is also the idea. Because she sitteth a queen. She thinks she is a queen. She thinks she is untouchable. She thinks she is the great power. She's got over 800 military bases all over the world. And guess what? Russia now has the capacity, if it so chooses, without going to nuclear power talk, just by conventional weapons, if they wanted, they could target every one of those bases and render them inoperable. And they haven't had to use any nuclear power, any nuclear weapons. So this is now what we're seeing. The day of the whore that rided that beast is essentially now up. And that was the speculation in the last upload. If Russia were to go non-nuclear with that kind of a strike, you see now they would have to decide whether they want to escalate by themselves going nuclear. And why would they not do that? Even if they have a declared policy of the Samson option. If you now have to press a button to launch a weapon, knowing that as you do so, yes, you're going to take out your enemy, but within minutes, that enemy is going to take you out also. Now comes the moment of truth. Are you going to do it, or are you going to chicken out? So that will be the question. And the thing about it is, even if there is one, shall we say, commander who has that power to say launch, and also has the will to say launch, he's not the only one that's going to be taken out. So now you have to depend upon an entire an entire chain of command, who would have known that there was no, prior nuclear attack upon them. So why would they now obey an order to launch nuclear? But rather, the attack upon them would be an attack taking out the hated, ones who were there running the country, not for the benefit of the people, but running the country for the benefit of this HOR, this whore that rideth the beast. So they are more than likely, certainly there's a good chance that they will say, well, good riddance and thank you, Russia, for solving our problem with that decapitation strike. So this is part of what is going on now. All of that, what I'm saying just now said, is a speculation. I do not have guidance to say so that is what the Spirit has guided me to say as what would happen. But he has guided me to say as a speculation and as what a rational mind might suggest could explain how it is you could have this day of vengeance with the kind of destruction that is talked about upon Esau, but with no corresponding mutual assured destruction hitting back at Jacob to bring about complete nuclear annihilation upon the world. So you can think about that. So that's what I was to bring to you. There was something else, but it seems to be eluding my attention here at the moment. What was it? Oh yes, Isaiah 30, there was something there I was supposed to bring to your attention and to make mention of. Yes, verse 26. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 26. Moreover, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun, and that's what we had last night. One of these super moons, I think they call it. And the light of the sun shall be sevenfold, as the light of 7 days. And this is what we have been having here in Trinidad. Certainly the last couple of weeks it has been scorching hot heat. I'm sure all kinds of records as to that have been broken. But here it is saying, the light of the moon shall be as the light of the sun. And yes, indeed, it was very bright last night. And the light of the sun shall be sevenfold as the light of 7 days, in the day that the Lord Yahweh bindeth up the breach of his people, and healeth the stroke of their wound. Behold, the name of the Lord Yahweh cometh from far, burning with his anger, and the burden thereof is heavy. His lips are full of indignation, and his tongue as a devouring fire. And his breath as an overflowing stream shall reach to the midst of the neck to sift the nations. with the sieve of vanity, and there shall be a bridle in the jaws of the people, causing them to err. In other words, He gonna make it happen. So we don't need to worry about mad, mutual assured destruction. And to kind of take a line from Bob Marley, the poet, have no fear for atomic energy. Have no fear for atomic. Anyway, I'm not a great singer, so I'll leave it at that. Okay, so with that, I give all praise, I give all glory, I give all exaltation unto the Most High God, Yahweh. And to those still listening, I say Shalom.